The loudest voice in the room is rarely the one with the most power. True power. It moves in silence. Napoleon Hill called it controlled attention. I call it the ultimate secret weapon of the successful. And today I'll prove to you why mastering silence could be the one decision that separates you from failure and unstoppable success. So, before you scroll away or click off, ask yourself this. What if the one thing that's holding you back is the very noise in your head? What if your next breakthrough isn't in talking more but in saying less? Stay with me. Because by silence is not weakness, it's power in its purest form. We've been conditioned to think that the more we talk, the more we're heard, the more we're seen, the more we matter.
But in reality, it's often the quiet ones who carry the most influence.
Think about the most powerful people you've ever known or heard of. Many of them speak less, not more. Their presence fills the room long before their words do. Why? Because silence, when controlled and intentional, becomes a magnetic force. It signals confidence, discipline, and self-awareness. It tells the world, I don't need to prove myself, I already know who I am. Napoleon Hill wrote extensively about the power of controlled attention. And silence is one of the highest forms of that control. It's the ability to not react, to not be impulsive, to not give away your power through noise. When you're silent, you're not just withholding words, you're conserving energy. You're creating space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies your greatest strength, the ability to think, to analyze, to plan. Successful people don't waste that space, they live in it. They make decisions from it. They use it as a tool to gain clarity while the world around them drowns in distraction. In a society that rewards loud opinions and constant commentary, the person who chooses silence becomes a mystery. And mystery draws attention far more effectively than noise. Silence builds intrigue. It makes people curious. It forces them to lean in, to wonder what you're thinking, what you know, what you're planning. That curiosity becomes influence. And influence is the currency of success. But silence isn't just about external impact, it's about internal mastery. To be silent in a world that begs for reaction is to have control over your emotions. It's to resist the urge to argue, to impress, to compete. It's to choose peace over pride. And that choice is a reflection of strength, not submission. Silence doesn't mean you lack a voice. It means you know exactly when to use it. And that timing, that precision, is what separates the average from the exceptional. So when we say silence is a secret weapon, we mean it literally. It's the tool that leaders use to gain leverage. It's the discipline that creators use to hear their best ideas. It's the pause that warriors take before the strike. One can talk. One can react. But only the powerful can remain still, calm and focused in the face of noise. That's not passivity. That's power. And that power is available to you the moment you stop talking and start listening. Not just to others, but to yourself. Napoleon Hill's concept of controlled attention is one of the most overlooked but transformational principles in the realm of success. It's about directing your thoughts, your focus, and your energy with intention and purpose. In a world overflowing with distractions, with endless noise from social media, conversations, notifications, and opinions, the ability to control your attention is the foundation of all achievement. Silence is the gateway to that control. When you quiet the world around you, and more importantly, the noise within you, regain the reins of your mind. You stop being reactive and start being strategic. Controlled attention is not simply about concentration. It's about domination of the mental space in which ideas are formed, decisions are made, and visions are born. Silence enables that domination. Hill taught that every person has the ability to concentrate their attention on a single purpose. And when they do, that purpose gains momentum. Most people fail not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they scatter their energy. They speak before they think. They react before they reflect. They fill the room with their words, never realizing that their real strength lies in restraint. Silence, therefore, becomes the first filter of a focused life. When you train yourself to be still, to listen rather than speak, to observe rather than interrupt, you are taking the first step toward mastering your own mind. And no one ever becomes successful without first mastering their mind. Control attention also gives rise to precision. When you are silent, you begin to notice the small details, the tone of voice, the body language, the patterns in behavior. You become a student of people, of opportunities, of timing. And when you finally choose to speak or act, you do so with accuracy. This is what makes the silent powerful, not that they say nothing, but that when they do speak, it matters. When they move, it counts. Silence trains you to wait for the right moment, and success is almost always about timing. In Hill's world, success was never just about money or fame. It was about personal power. The power to discipline your mind, the power to direct your thoughts, the power rise above emotional noise and see clearly. Silence gives you that power. It is not passive, it is purposeful. When practiced with intent, silence becomes a tool for thinking deeper, feeling less overwhelmed, and living with sharper clarity. Controlled attention is the art of choosing your mental battlefield.
And silence is your armor.
It is the beginning of every breakthrough. Because in the end, a distracted mind can never build a focused life. But a silent mind, that's where empires begin. There is a rare kind of influence that doesn't come from charisma, loud speech, or constant visibility. It comes from presence, silent, steady, and intentional. The most successful individuals have mastered the art of influence not by how much they say, but by how much power they carry in their silence. While the world is busy shouting for attention, those who truly understand influence know this. What you don't say often has more impact than what you do. Silence, when used deliberately, becomes magnetic. It draws people in. It commands respect without asking for it. It creates a kind of tension, a space that makes people lean forward, curious and attentive. That space is where real influence is born. People talk constantly, often trying to fill the room with their opinions, their knowledge, their stories. But the one who speaks the least is often the one being watched the most. Why? Because silence signals control. It says, I'm not here to prove myself. I know who I am. That level of confidence doesn't go unnoticed. It makes people want to listen more closely when you do decide to speak. It makes your words carry weight, not just sound. Every leader who has left a lasting legacy understood this truth. From stoic warriors to visionary CEOs, they knew how to let silence do the heavy lifting. Silence also allows for intention. The person who listens more gains more information, more insight, more leverage. While others are revealing their thoughts, strategies, and weaknesses through overtalking, the silent one is gathering intelligence. They're reading the room, watching body language, detecting hesitation, and calculating their next move with precision. Influence is not always about speaking, it's about knowing. And the one who stays silent knows more than the one who rushes to speak. In business negotiations, in relationships, in leadership, silence becomes a tool of dominance. It puts the other person in a position where they feel compelled to fill the gap. And when they do, they often reveal more than they intended. This is why the silent person seems to have an edge. They create space that others rush to fill, and in doing so, the silent one gains clarity, advantage, and control. Silence doesn't just create influence externally, it builds inner strength. It teaches patience, restraint, and timing. And when you combine those qualities with intelligence and intention, you become unstoppable. Because influence is not just about being heard, it's about being remembered. And those who master silence leave an impression that words alone could never create. In a world obsessed with volume, silence is rare. And anything rare becomes valuable. That is why silence in the hands of the successful is not just a habit, it's a secret weapon. In a world that rewards speed and constant motion, silence becomes the last place anyone thinks to look for answers. Yet it is exactly there, in the stillness, where clarity lives. Successful people don't just act, they think. They plan, they visualize, and they decide with intention. That kind of mental precision doesn't come from chaos. It comes from quiet. Silence is not just a break from sound, it is the foundation of strategic thought. It's in silence that you can hear your own intuition. It's in silence that patterns begin to emerge, that solutions present themselves, and that ideas are born in their purest form. Without silence, your mind becomes a crowded room where nothing meaningful can be heard. The most effective leaders carve out time for silence, not as an escape, but as a weapon. They retreat into it to process, to reflect, and to calculate their next moves. They don't react to the noise around them. They respond from a place of calm insight. Ability to pause and think deeply is not a luxury. It's a competitive advantage. While others are chasing trends and moving without direction, the successful sight with their thoughts and form strategy. And when they move with certainty and strength. Silence gives them that clarity, that edge. Every major decision that builds empires, disrupts industries, or changes lives is born in a moment of still thinking. It's rarely result of quick, loud brainstorming sessions or impulsive reactions. It's usually the product of a silent, focused mind that has been trained to go deep. Successful people understand that creativity and insight are not squeezed out of a busy, overstimulated brain. They emerge from a mind that has space to think. That space is only found in silence. The world is addicted to noise. People rush to speak their minds, to share their opinions, to be seen and heard constantly. But the successful resist that temptation. They aren't in a race to be loud. They are in a mission to be right, to be intentional, to be aligned with their vision. They use silence to tune out distractions and tune into what really matters. They understand that some of the most powerful realizations and innovations happen when the world is turned off and the mind is turned on. To think like the successful, you must learn to be comfortable in silence. Sit with your own thoughts. Ask the deeper questions. Map out your vision away from the chaos. Because without silence, you are only reacting to life. But with it, you are creating it. That is the difference between drifting through the noise and designing your path. And in that design, in that strategic, intentional silence, is where real success takes shape. One of the most underrated skills of the highly successful is the ability to listen and observe while everyone else is speaking. In the rush to be heard, most people miss what's actually being said. They focus on what they want to say next instead of truly hearing what's in front of them. But the successful think differently. They know that silence creates space for understanding. It allows them to hear what others miss, the subtle tone shifts, the unspoken doubts, the hidden intentions. Silence turns them into students of human behavior, and through that observation, they gain insights that give them a powerful advantage. When you choose silence, you give yourself permission to absorb. Instead of reacting instantly, you start noticing the details that others overlook.
You begin to pick up on inconsistencies in someone's story, patterns in their decisions, or gaps in their knowledge.
You become a better communicator not by speaking more, but by understanding better. While the average person is trying to dominate the conversation, the successful one is quietly studying it. They use silence to gather data, and that data becomes the foundation for more effective actions and sharper decisions. Listening is a discipline, not just a habit. It requires focus, presence, and humility. But those who cultivate it quickly rise above the rest. People are naturally drawn to those. It makes them feel seen and valued. That alone builds trust, and trust builds influence. Successful people don't just listen to reply, they listen to connect. And that connection, forged in the quiet moments, often opens doors that loud, aggressive behavior never could. Observation, too, is a silent superpower. When you're not speaking, you're watching. And watching reveals everything. How someone carries themselves, how they respond under pressure, how they treat others when no one is watching. These insights can't be found in words, they're discovered in moments of stillness. And the successful use that information to their advantage. They see things coming before others do. They prepare while others react. They read. People read rooms and read situations with incredible precision, all because they chose silence over noise. The world teaches us to speak up, to be heard, to shout louder than the rest. But the successful reverse that logic. They know that silence speaks volumes if you know how to use it. Through intentional listening and keen observation, they move with knowledge, not assumption. They make informed decisions, build deeper relationships, and navigate complexity with calm confidence. In the end, a person who listens learns more, and the one who sees clearly acts wisely.
That is the essence of silent power, and it belongs to those willing to stop talking long enough to actually understand.
So here's the truth. Silence is not emptiness. It's not hesitation, nor is it weakness. It is power waiting. It is strategy in motion. It is the calm before the breakthrough. While the world shouts, the successful sight still. While others rush to react, they listen, they observe, they think. In that stillness, they find what noise will never offer: clarity, control, and calculated direction. Napoleon Hill didn't speak of silence because it sounded poetic. He revealed it as a tool for transformation. A tool to control attention, master emotion, and build a vision from the inside out. If you want to separate yourself from the average, learn to be quiet. Learn to listen when others argue. Learn to plan when others panic. Learn to sit with your thoughts until they sharpen into action. Because in a noisy world, silence isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. It's not about saying less to be less. It's about saying less to be more. More focused. More aware. More intentional. And ultimately, more successful. So, the next time you're tempted to speak for approval, to react for attention, or to fill the silence with noise, pause, breathe. And remember, the lion never has to roar to be feared. Let your silence become your strength. Let your stillness speak louder than your words, because in that silence, success is already listening.